In today's lesson, we're going to be taking a look at IDs and classes. And these are simply ways that we can assign labels to specific elements so that we can then target them within our style sheets. Let's look at an example. As you can see here, I have a blank page with an unordered list with just a bit of gibberish here. Our goal is we want to make this list item have a color of red. So if you want, you can pause and see if you can figure out how you would do it. Now, in a previous lesson, I showed you how to link to an external style sheet, and this is very important. It's a best practice. Do this in your projects. However, there's also another way that we can do it, and this is referred to as inline CSS. And this can be helpful if you have a very small project, or let's say you're working on a very tiny demo and you want to send it off. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to have extra files when it's so small. In this case, within the head, we're going to learn a new element, and this is called style. Now, we can add CSS properties within here the same way we would as if it was a style sheet. Just note, within the head of your document, wrap everything within a style tag. Now, to give you an example, if we set the body and we set the background color of the body element, meaning the wrapping body element, is going to have a background of red. Let's try that out. And as you would expect, the CSS is being applied correctly. Good. So now let's get back to our assignment. We need to make this third list item right here red. How would you do that? Well, let's try a couple examples first. We can search for all list items, and we're going to make the color red. If I refresh, as we would expect, every single list item is being applied, but in our case, we need a way to target this one exclusively. Now, I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we can do this, easy to hardest. So the first option is to use an identifier. So I will come down to the element that I wish to target, and I'm going to add an attribute called ID. ID for identification or identifier. And now I'm going to give it a name of something that describes what this element is. Remember, with semantics, we don't want to be specific, and we don't want to say third li. That is a terrible ID, because watch what happens as soon as we move it maybe down here. Now this ID makes no sense because it's the 4th one, right? So always describe it rather than be specific. In this case, maybe here we would like to apply emphasis here. So this describes it. It's an emphasized section. Well, now I can reference any ID within my CSS by doing # and then the name of the ID. So in this case, I will copy this and paste it in. And then within curly braces, I add my styling per usual. Now we're saying, look on the page for an element that has an ID of emphasis. Let's try it out now. And as you would expect, only the 3rd element is red because that's all we targeted. Let's see what would happen if we add another ID here of emphasis as well. If I refresh, it is going to work, but I don't want you to do this. This is a bad practice. We use IDs to target specific elements. They are not intended to group elements together. And while a browser will allow you to get away with it, it's a very bad practice in the web design community, and you shouldn't do it. Instead, we use what's known as classes. They are quite similar to IDs, but the main difference being we use an ID to target one element. We use classes to style a group of elements.